Hey guys, welcome to the Field of 68 YouTube channel. If you like what you see here, hit that subscribe button and you'll get more college basketball content just like this.
Downtown 225 East Monroe. Come hang out with us. We have Bobby Hurley, Arizona State head coach here. Your brother, Dan, is coaching UConn. Your former assistant, Nate Oats, is coaching Alabama. So I'm putting you under pressure right off the jump. Who are we rooting for on Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, there's.
Just say Nate. Come on, just say Nate.
No way. There's. Nate's out, man. I love Nate. But yeah, I'm all in with Dan. It's we're like this and super tight and been through a lot together and great story though how circular this thing could be where you have a guy like Nate Oats that's coaching against Dan and the whole storyline, the backstory of how it all came full circle to this moment. But yeah, Dan's been terrific to me, and he's my best friend, and just hopeful that he gets it done this weekend.
Let's talk about that backstory with Nate Oats. You were the one. I'm going to say you discovered him as the high school coach, right? What did you see in him as a coach at that level that made you think it would work?
I didn't discover him. Dan saw him. I'm not going to take credit for that. I was his assistant at the time at Rhode Island. Myself and Preston Murphy, who's now the assistant coach at Alabama, were the two primary guys that went to CEC. And then Dan would go as well. We watched a bunch of Nate's practices. We sat with Nate and just talked about basketball. Like, he's got crazy energy, just big time, just passion for the game, love of the game. I watched how he conducted practices, very structured, very disciplined, and just saw this guy could be a really good coach. And EC ended up going to Rhode Island, helped Dan quite a bit. I got the Buffalo job real shortly after that, and I thought Nate made a lot of sense, with his roots in the Midwest, to come and help me out of Buffalo.
Have you seen a difference in your brother this year? I know he says, and he is super motivated still. Once you win one, you want to stay at that level. But have you seen a difference in kind of the pressure be taken off him?
I think once you win it, it elevates your confidence, and it also it takes the monkey off your back, I guess. So there's probably a degree of that to it, but he wants it every bit as bad as he did last year, and just all my conversations with him.
You say elevates his confidence. When was the point, coaching-wise, because you were around him for the beginning of it. I was up there at Wagner with you guys.
Yeah.
Was there a point where you were like, I'm not, because at St. Benedict's he had it. Did he lose it at any point through
No.
Wagner? You are at never.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's just a progression you go through. It takes time, and he built multiple programs and took Rhode Island into the NCAA Tournament, won games, and at UConn, it just took time to build his culture and establish himself. And there's going to be some peaks and valleys, some losses in the tournament that you learn from, and then you get the right group of people, and then bam, it just takes off.
You talk to him. How does he feel about, we're talking about doing something that, and I even referenced your Blue Devils, because you guys had some challenges going through. They haven't been challenged. And unlike you guys, your Blue Devils, unlike Florida Gators, they're just blowing everybody out. Does he even think about that? Or has that even been talked about in context and even understanding of what history he's making right now doing this?
No, I don't want to jinx him or say the wrong thing, so I avoid asking those type of questions. But I mean, it's evident to me, having played it and lived it, that we had games we had to survive, and
Right.
it might be one or two of those each year. And he really has just steamrolled everybody last year. I mean,
And I've said that. And I've said you guys had challenges right along your way to your multiple championships. Am I wrong for saying that we've never seen this?
yeah, and this I think that they are in the conversation if they win with any of the great teams based on how they've done it. The style in which they've done it is remarkable. Just that Illinois game, the run they went on, you don't see that very often in college basketball.
In college basketball, the landscape's changed. I mean, if we put your team up against his team, I think we'd all agree. I'd take your team. I'd take your team by probably double figures. But the landscape has changed so much, hasn't it?
It has. I mean, it's different with the turnover and the change. I mean, back in the day when we played, it was guys stayed longer, and you're able to build something more. Now, Dan has been able to keep his core each year, which is helpful, and then build around it. So I think that's been valuable to have guys that have cut the nets down, that know what it's about, that have been there and done it. So that's certainly super helpful.
Jeff mentioned Wagner when you coached with Dan. We had a former player on. He played at Marquette as well. And he told us a story about in practice there was one time when your brother got really upset and took the practice plan, the sheet of paper, and ate the paper. Can you confirm this story?
I mean, I can't confirm that. I would be surprised if that went down. But, yeah, that's great.
I think the best thing about coming here for me is seeing your dad here and knowing and obviously playing against you in high school, not only at Duke, and seeing him, and obviously he's really proud of sharing stories with him, and I know he's obviously really proud of what both of you guys have accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, being here for Dan and on the ride with him, it's what he did his whole life. It was his life work. So to see, his son doing that and seeing me coach at Arizona State has to be very gratifying for him.
He's still the best Hurley coach in the family, I think.
I don't know, Dad.
I still think he's the best Hurley coach in the family now.
Listen, I can tell you that he was a master at what he did.
Yes, he was. He was
and
one of the best.
At a different level, but man, he was so dominant. His winning percentage was crazy. He didn't have to feel the lows that we feel on a more regular basis.
So I asked all of Dan's starting five last week in Boston. I said, give me one word to describe Dan Hurley. My word was what? Lunatic?
Lunatic.
That was my word for him. Pretty good word for him, right?
Yeah.
Give me your word.
Man, I would say complex. Like, he's just like, there's a lot of layers to Dan, and he's got a lot of interests. I mean, you could go talking about his underwear, his artwork that he's doing, his meditating. There's a lot of things that
You're
Dan and I
like
talk about.
normal compared to Dan. I've come to that realization now. You're a normal human being, which not many people are going to call you normal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of stable, away from this. Like,
Now.
when I do my thing, I flip the switch, and I'm like him in every way, but I'm kind of low-key. I mean, it's funny that over the years, our players that we both have coached have gotten together at various things as pros and have talked and shared stories about the two of us. And, this crazy thing that I did or that Dan did. So there's a lot of similarities in our coaching personality.
When we talked about your dad, what do you guys take from him? Where do you see similarities in how you coach, how you run a team, how you run a program, how you plan out a season? What do you see in what you take from your dad?
You talk about eating a practice plan. I ate hating to lose every day, watching my dad. Like, whether it was a bad practice that he would be upset about, or a game that the team didn't win by 40, they should have won by 40, won by 20. Like, he was a perfectionist and hated to lose. And the times he lost, forget it. Me and Dan were going into hiding in the house. So that's what drove us as we grew as players. And then we went to the playground and played all day in Jersey City on the playground, and we wanted to hold the court all day. So you just have this massive desire to win and be successful.
Yeah. My last one is, if you're Nate Oats right now, and you've seen both teams play a bunch, how do you beat this UConn team?
Well, if I'm Nate and I'm going against Dan in this game, I do not challenge him to bowling. Because Nate, he hyped himself up as this great bowler. Okay. And we took Buffalo, took our team out to bowl, and we did a draft. And he was the first pick, and he shot like 100 or something.
It was terrible?
Oh, yeah, he was a bust. He was a bust. He was the first pick in the draft, and he was terrible.
It was all hype.
Yeah, so I have to share that about Nate.
Okay.
Just a little backstory. So Nate's guy, I hope he's worked on that on his bowling game. But seriously about this, it's UConn doesn't have an obvious weakness. I mean, I think they just have to play their style and hope that they're hitting threes and they could speed up tempo and they could get enough stops to play the style they want to play. I think at this time of year, certainly you have to game plan and tweak things, but you have to be great at what you do. And if it's better than your opponent, then you have a chance to win.
I like how we asked the question about how to beat UConn, and you said Nate is a terrible bowler. You were waiting to get that in there.
That's such a coach answer.
I knew it was the last question you said, so I want to
Get it in there to make sure that everybody knows whose side he's on. Right?
He is good at pool. When we were in Tuscaloosa, he lit me up 3 times in a row in pool. It was bad.
If he wins this, it's 2-2 with the brothers, man. Somebody's got to break the tie eventually. You got your 2. He has his 2.
I mean, I've said it, and I am very humble, very low-key, but we would have 4 of the last 32 championships together. I mean, that's like insane when you talk about player and coaches. The percentages of that happening for one family, I just feel very, very blessed and fortunate if it happens.
And your dad's still the best coach in the family.
See how the best month of the year is here, which is why you need to know that we are partnered with BetMGM. We'll be using BetMGM lines for making all of our picks and predictions, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's the best part. All you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your hard-earned money to get it. This is what you have to do to make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You'll get up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the rest of the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boost, and the thing that I love the most, a nice little parlay boost, as well as a ridiculous array of prop bets for anything that you could possibly imagine betting on. From odds on getting to the Final Four to national championship futures, I'm calling it right now. BetMGM is the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app. Use that code FIELD and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the pod in any podcast app. Like and share the YouTube videos that you enjoy. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.